Everybody, hi, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. We're starting today our Peter Boyle movie week. And we recently saw him in season 4.
Season 3.
Season 3. We've been watching a lot of X-Files. X-Files show, and he did just a tremendous job in the show. And he'd been around a long time. The most memorable movie for me was the Young Frankenstein, which we are going to watch after this movie. And so we decided to do a Peter Boyle week, and Marco looked around and found some movies. And today we are watching a movie called The Friends of Eddie Coyle. Is that right? And it came out in 1973. And really, for the most part, I mean, there's quite a few people in the cast, but and I've seen them over the years in different things. They're not real famous. The most famous people are Peter Boyle, of course, and Robert Mitchum. And I would say, at least the way I looked at it in the picture on the cover of the movie, was that it kind of all centers around Robert Mitchum. But
yeah, but I'll say what I thought that I saw on the poster. And now, posters are very important, because what did people see in the 1970s when they went to see a movie at the theater, Safi? What did they see before they chose what movie? They saw
Robert Mitchum.
They saw the poster, Safi.
Right.
They saw the poster. And in this poster, you have in giant letters Robert Mitchum, and then in giant letters Peter Boyle, right next to each other. Not like, Robert Mitchum and then like a bunch of other names below that. No, Robert Mitchum, Peter Boyle. And then you look at the poster, you have Robert Mitchum, and then you have Peter Boyle, and he's looking at Robert Mitchum. And so, to me, I was thinking maybe they're going to be like best friends, maybe they're going to be partners, and then you had all these other people there, and they all have guns, and it looks like, wow, this is going to be a really exciting, bloody, spectacular movie. And then you watch it, and it's like,
it was very quiet.
Fall asleep, change the channel, change the movie, Safi, exit out, turn it off, fall asleep. That's what this movie is, completely. And I was pissed off because I thought, how could you go wrong with a 1970s gangster movie? Well, here you go. This is how. Safi, this was bad. It was really bad. It's hailed as some sort of a classic. I have no idea why that is. I mean, the fact that this movie is in the Criterion Collection, but Heather's is not, it's just kind of embarrassing. I mean, the movie, I was so confused watching it because of how they talked. They talked so fast, and they just kept on rattling off names that I didn't know, and it was hard to understand, and it took all of my energy not to fall asleep. I was fighting the urge to fall asleep for 2 hours, and that's not very pleasant. So what about you, Safi? Did you and I kept on waiting for something to happen. I was like, something's got to happen at some point in this movie, and then nothing ever does ever happen, ever. It's just a big
Well, I fell asleep once, but then it wasn't for very long, and because I thought, I know something's gonna be happening. It has to, because even the bank robberies, we saw 2, and they were very quiet. I mean, you could almost whisper, and everybody they did what they were told. They were told to go sit in certain places and not make a move. I mean, they did everything they were supposed to, but I mean, usually there's like some kind of quick movement here or there. I mean, even just the movement itself. But no, everything was like everybody had taken a sleeping pill or a zombie pill.
I feel like I took a sleeping pill when I started this review.
And it was just amazing. And the whole point of the story was dishonor among thieves, because nobody was loyal to the other.
I've seen that a million times, though.
Yeah, and it was just amazing, though. It got to the point, it wasn't just ratting out people and having them go to jail. It was actually saying that they did something they didn't do, and then you go and kill them. Which to me, that was unusual and bizarre.
Not to me.
I wasn't even sure if when the person ratted out the other which they didn't do anything. They didn't do what they said. I wasn't even sure. I thought, I wonder if isn't he the one who did the ratting out? And I was thinking, nah, that can't be. But I was right, and because Marco confirmed it, and I was right, and I was just so shocked. I was still thinking about it, because I mean, I don't know what kind of person does that.
Mm-hmm.
Even a thief, another thief. I mean, thieves are thieves, killers are killers.
It's sad because I've seen that before. So, you've seen it before where you have two friends and they're in the crime business, and then one of the friends has to kill the other one, the Irishman.
Oh.
That was the same type of didn't that remind you of the Irishman,
no,
Safi?
I wasn't even thinking about that, but now I recall.
The Irishman is actually a good movie, so they should have watched The Irishman.
Well,
They should have time traveled. They should have time traveled to 2019 and watched it and been like, "Ooh, this is how you make a gangster movie." Oops, oopsie.
That's a shame.
Anyways, the story reminded me a lot. I thought it was going to be like Mafia, because if you guys saw, I played and reviewed the Mafia Definitive Edition game. I had played the second and third game, and I never played the first one. But then they remastered it and put it out for free on PS Now, and the story was I thought was going to be very similar, because in that game, and the story for this movie, they summarized it completely false advertising. The story, they say that he's gonna go to prison, and in order to avoid going to prison, he has to rat out all of his friends. And it's like, I never saw that happen in the movie, ever, until I guess the very end he tried to, and then it failed. But in the game, in the Mafia game, he actually does that, and the whole game is showing this really, really great story where he's joining the family and working with them, and he makes these two friends, and then one of them becomes good at the end, and the other one becomes evil, and he becomes the main bad guy. And it was actually a fantastic story, and it's still memorable. This story is trash. I mean, there's all these sequences where you just have these random criminals doing bank robberies, doing this, doing that, and it's like, what's the point? I just want to go to sleep. I just want to go to sleep right now instead of watching, or even talking about this movie. I'm feeling like I want to go to sleep.
Yeah, and it was interesting, too, how, I mean, let's say I never really watched that Ocean's 11, but isn't that about a bank robbery? And I mean, it's just a long, drawn-out thing for a whole movie. This thing was, they had a bank robbery, then they had another bank robbery, except that one got screwed up, and then they had a couple who just pop up near the end because they're making a deal with a thief, and of course they get robbed because they don't ever show them again, I don't believe.
They went to get something to eat.
Oh, well, but then after that, I mean, there was no closure to that whatsoever, except even they didn't even realize they'd been robbed, or they did, but they didn't. There was no closure. That's what I'm saying, and it was a couple, And they said, we just want these guns because we want to rob banks. And you've seen these men who twice rob a bank. It was all coordinated. Somebody staying in a phone booth over here. There's somebody at a phone with the family of the bank, a phone in the house of the banker with the family, watching over them with a gun. Then you have the getaway car, and you have this group of men just doing the bank robbing, and everything is all coordinated and synced. And then you have this couple kind of pop up near the end, which was really weird. And I'm thinking, like, how are they going to configure into this whole story? But it was almost like it wasn't even a red herring. It was almost like a distraction. It just didn't go. Actually, I don't think they even needed to have them in there. I don't know. What do you think about that? Did they need to be in the story? Because they didn't even nothing was resolved about what happened to them.
Well, Safi, I think that they went to go eat Made Right. You want to explain?
If you don't know what Made Right is, it's God. I used to live in Lexington, Missouri, and they do have one here in Ohio. I don't know the name of the town. Greenville, Ohio, maybe.
Oh, no.
I'm not positive. I've never been there. But
nobody wants to eat that.
I actually went to high school in Lexington, so that was a place. They have their hamburger. I think they boil it or something, and it's not a hamburger.
It's basically like a sloppy Joe, but they call it a hamburger.
Yeah, it's all loose meat.
It's made right, and it's like, oh, excuse me, it looks like it was made some other way.
And people actually skip school to eat that. Yeah. Oh, well.
That was hilarious, Safi.
Gross.
You were like, kids would skip school to go to Made Right.
Oh, God.
And to me, this couple, they're like the type of people who would go to eat Made Right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I just thought that they were some random people. I mean, the whole movie had this sense of pointlessness and rambling and randomness where there wasn't really a straight line narrative. And you don't have to have a straight line narrative. Like, I've seen plenty of movies with that. But movies that don't have straight line narratives, they need to be good. Like, remember Cloud Atlas? That movie didn't really have a straight line narrative. It was broken up. You had all these different narratives and everything.
Layers and layers.
And that was really good. This movie had nothing. It had... I thought that the best part of the movie was this random guy who was a machine gun dealer. And he drives around all day selling machine guns, buying them. And I thought that all the stuff with him was the best part because it was really intense with him the way that he had to buy these guns, and you're thinking, well, what if these guys are just going to use the guns to rob him? And it's kind of like scary with his character. And I thought it's too bad because you could have actually just made a full movie about his character going around selling and buying guns on the road.
He was screwing people over too, though, which was part of the dishonor amongst thieves theme. And nothing happened with him.
No, he went to jail.
Oh, he went to jail.
He informed on him, and then it didn't matter at all that he informed.
I don't think the thing is, he didn't get killed by anybody.
He was the best part of the movie.
I don't know. And
really? What would you say is the best part of the movie, Safi?
I don't know.
Robert Mitchum?
Not really. I thought his character was very weak. It was almost like he wanted to retire, and he was just, in the movie, he wants to get a sentence reduced because he says he's getting older, all his friends are in Florida, and here he is struggling out here to find a plumber if he needed one, to find the money to pay the plumber, I guess. And it almost seemed like even as an actor that maybe if this is what he was stuck doing, he didn't want it, and he just thought maybe he should just retire. That's the impression that I got.
He did a pretty good job. this is my first, I think it's my first movie that I've seen with him in it.
No, I've seen
And
several.
I thought he did a pretty good job, but his character was hardly in the movie, so you really didn't care at all about what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like, I cared more about the assault arms guy because he was going around
all over the place,
driving around in the middle of the night, and the guy's like, drive up to that hill. And it's like, uh-oh, we know what's going to happen on top of the hill. Because, like, something really bad. And so it's like, what's going to happen with that? But then you have all these other guys, and they just go about like business as usual. They don't really have many issues.
No.
And the movie itself was just, again, it was very bland and very boring.
Yeah.
Anticlimactic, predictable. I mean, we all knew at the end he's gonna die, because in gangster movies we have to have the main character get killed, so we show that being gangster bad.
Yeah, but the problem is he didn't do anything. He did not deserve to get, he didn't rat anybody out. But
Yeah.
the person who did the ratting said that it was suspected that he did it, which was surprising too, because I mean, he was saying this throughout the entire movie. He said it multiple times. He wanted to get a sentence reduced. And then these other people, he would find out things, and to help him out with their robbery or their getting guns or whatever. They would say, oh, this guy will never rat us out. He would never do that, ever. And he just wants to get his sentence reduced. So they knew. And so what happens in the end, for some reason, all of a sudden, it's suspected that he ratted them out. He was going to, and he refused. And the detective said, well, I'm sorry, if you can't do anything about what you want now, then I can't help you. And he went ahead and got his information from the bad boy who did the ratting, but blamed it on Robert Mitchum. And it was just, to me, and I didn't, it was so, the other theme with everything's just so quiet and nothing happens. Even when he was murdered in the end,
it was just
quiet.
a quick.
I wasn't even sure he was killed.
Yeah.
What happened, and what they showed, I felt like I was watching an X-Files episode. There was this red light, and there's an orange and a yellow in it. I'm like, what am I looking at?
They parked him at the bowling alley.
Yeah, you can hear the people knocking down pins. That was weird. So anyway, it's a shame, but
Well, let's talk about Peter Boyle, though. I mean, we got to talk about Peter Boyle. Peter Boyle, he's so weird looking. He looks like a giant, like he should be playing Humpty Dumpty, like he's a giant hard-boiled egg. And his character is just as weird as him, because his character makes no sense. He's a snitch for some reason. He rats people out after they talk at the bar.
And that's another thing. There's no reward for him being a snitch.
Yeah, there's
nothing.
No character at all.
No reward whatsoever. No money. No moving to another state and having an assumed name or whatever you want to call it. There is no reward. So why is he doing it? And he doesn't say, well, I have to do this because I believe in the law. That's a joke, because he wanted to be a serial killer. He said, well, I do this, for a living, and I can do it. And the guy says, well, I want him killed tonight. Well, no, wait a minute, I got to wait till tomorrow because I got to do something. And like, excuse me? And that was another odd thing. There's no reward in him doing that. Does he like to kill? And he didn't seem like, no, he didn't really like to kill. Especially since he knew he was a bad boy and not Robert Mitchum. That he was blaming he was putting the finger on somebody to divert attention away from himself.
Yeah, see, that's why I thought that the whole movie would feature him more if they were going to have him play such an important role at the end. Why wasn't he more involved with the rest of the movie? Like, it's just this movie is
I just don't know what think they knew what they were doing.
It reminds me a lot of that No Sudden Move, Safi, that we just watched from last year.
Yeah.
You know, the way that nothing really happens, and then, oh, God.
Well, so anyway, and the thing is, Peter Boyle, if you want to talk about his character or his acting, I thought he did a good job. But like we have said, mainly Marco, is he really wasn't on screen that much.
Yeah.
And he really did play an important part of the movie. A very important. It only happens at the end and not for very long. And really, you're kind of surprised because of how little he was on screen throughout the movie. You're surprised at how he could have done that and how come he played such a big part when he was hardly on screen.
I would say that this is the worst performance of his that I've seen so far. It really didn't stick out. It felt like he was mostly just playing himself. You know, I've seen, and I say that because I've seen in even TV movies and small movies, I see better performances than this crap.
Yeah, well, we can only hope for the following movies. I have seen Young Frankenstein several times
I
over
didn't
the
finish
years.
it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
And but it's not just him. It's focusing on
Gene
Wilder
which,
and Madeline Kahn, and
yeah.
so it's like it's more of a cast kind of movie where you focus on more than one person, not
And
just
Safi, you know what other
Peter
problem
Boyle.
about this movie? This movie is very sexist because there's no strong women in it, and
Marco's
that was
joking.
that was a downfall of this movie.
So I just don't, here I am, a woman of the 70s, and I just don't I didn't even think about that, and I wouldn't. It doesn't even have any place in it. They have so many other problems. They need to really focus on those problems first. Yeah. And if it's a problem to not have a woman being a strong character...
No, I'm just joking, because I know that that's what some other idiot would say nowadays, like if a mainstream news site reviewed this movie, they would be like, the Friends of Eddie Coyle, more like the Boys Club of Eddie Coyle.
Well, they're just all the people who knew him. He was very well known.
I was expecting the couple to become a bigger part. I thought maybe
I did too.
Their bank robbery was going to go horribly wrong. It was going to be a big bloodbath. I was excited. You know, the blood in the 70s looked a lot better than the blood from today. So, every time you don't see blood in a 70s movie, it's a disappointment. Because it had a certain look to it, right, Safi?
Yeah, it was just very quiet and very... They're non-visual.
Yeah. So what would you rate this pointless crap?
Well, I think I'd give it just a plain old 10-year-old cheese pizza.
Really?
Well, it doesn't have any... It's so quiet and it's the same. And it just... Even the murder was just like... I wasn't even sure if it occurred. Which I know it did. But it was still... so quiet. Even the robberies. At one point in the second robbery, which I don't blame the guy, but one of the workers, he pressed the button and they told him, the guy, one of the robbers saw him and said, what did you just do? And he shot him in the chest. Probably killed him.
I think that the guy was retarded.
And if he'd not done anything at all, everything would have gone smoothly and uneventfully. But he did that. But anyway, just homie was quiet and boring and
uneventful.
Cheese pizza to me is boring.
Really?
And it's not even multiple. You can get 6 cheese pizza or whatever.
6 cheese.
And this was like a 1 cheese pizza, like in the olden days.
Like what Kevin McAllister likes.
Yeah, well, that's because they didn't have any of the other. They didn't offer it. They didn't think about it. They didn't think about having a 6 cheese pizza back then. I mean, this is a new thing, and it's been over the last 5 to 7.
Kevin McAllister preferred just one cheese
Right.
over everything.
Right, and that's what this movie was, a one cheese pizza that's kind of been sitting in the refrigerator for a while and it's cold. Ugh. I shouldn't say it's that bad.
It is.
It
It
is.
is.
It's. I hate to say that because I think
it's
about
like-
how awful that tastes. And
You have to be honest, Safi. You can't just say everything's great, everything's
no, I
fantastic.
didn't say everything. I didn't say everything is great. I just
Because, people have already said that. This movie's in the Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
I mean, who the fuck decided to put this
I don't know.
boring old man movie in the Criterion Collection?
I don't know.
There were movies made in the 1930s that were more entertaining than this.
Yeah.
That's bad, Safi. That's really bad.
Well, what did you rate it?
Well, I think of something old people like, something that just makes you want to go to sleep. How boring that is. Like, ugh.
What would that be? Pudding? I mean, I don't know.
What kind of pudding is Peter Boyle? Probably
Well, I
like,
don't know because he's
what's the weirdest
in
kind of
the
pudding?
X-Files episode. He was I thought he was very dynamic and
Not in this.
energetic, and he had a huge part. I mean, when he talked, he did a whole explanation. He was very on point. He was interviewing people, and he'd get them on track. And
If he was still alive, he should literally play a fucking hypnotist or someone who has to sit there in a room and say, now you are going to go to sleep. And you are going to... Because he's just that boring. Like, there's nothing that he brought to this movie that made him stand out in comparison to Richard Thomas. Just imagine if Richard Thomas was in this movie, Safi.
yeah.
He would have made it so much better. But I just thought, what do old people like? What's like some gross old people food?
I don't know, pudding.
No. Bologna sandwich
Oh, God.
on white bread. It sat out all night because he made it and then he just left it out all night because he thought you would put it away. And so... And it has mayonnaise on it, and it's just a slice, a set, and it's like in that Jimmy Neutron episode where he has his birthday every day, and then one day Carl says, "Happy 17th birthday this month, Jim." And then he comes up to him and he says, "I didn't have any money to buy any more presents, so here's some lunch meat from my refrigerator." And it's this like greasy old bag with a sad slice of bologna. Just put that bologna on white bread with mayo and leave it out all night, and that's this movie. It is just a completely sad and pathetic crap movie. And I don't care if it's made in the 70s, so what? Like, there's movies from 1900 that are better than this. Ugh.
Okay, well,
Ugh.
so our next movie will be Young Frankenstein, which I'm looking forward to reviewing because it's a Frankenstein movie. Interesting. And because it's a comedy, and because of who's in it.
Who's in it,
Cast.
Safi? Is Peter Boyle in it? Is Peter Boyle ever in the movie?
Oh, yeah.
With this? Okay. I hope he's just not in, like, the fucking last 30 minutes or something, like with this movie.
But I don't know about I don't remember him speaking any conversation, but I could be wrong. I thought it was mainly grunts. I don't know. I'm not for sure. So, okay, everybody, goodbye.
Bye.